Welcome back to the channel. Last time, we left Joseph at rock bottom, literally. His own brothers betrayed him, threw him in a pit, and sold him off. His father, Jacob, was left heartbroken, clutching that famous rainbow coat. But as we said, the pit wasn't the end, it was just the beginning of one of the wildest comeback stories ever told. Today, in episode 2, Joseph lands in Egypt, and his journey takes a turn no one saw coming. Let's get into it. So picture this. Joseph, just a teenager, is dragged hundreds of miles from his home and ends up on an auction block in Egypt. Who buys him? None other than Potiphar, the captain of Pharaoh's guard. This guy is a big deal, rich, powerful, and at the very heart of Egyptian high society. Joseph enters this massive palace with towering golden pillars, surrounded by guards and servants. He's no longer the favorite son. He's a foreign slave, starting from the absolute bottom. His first jobs? Mopping floors, carrying water, and doing all the thankless tasks no one else wanted. It was a harsh new reality. But here's the thing about Joseph. He wasn't your average guy. He didn't complain or get bitter. Instead, he poured his heart into every single task, no matter how small. He worked hard, he was completely honest, and there was this undeniable quality about him. The Bible says the Lord was with Joseph, and he prospered. Everything he touched just seemed to work out perfectly. It was like he had the Midas touch, but instead of gold, everything he managed flourished. This wasn't just luck, it was a divine favor that was impossible to ignore, and you can be sure his new master started to notice. Potiphar wasn't just powerful, he was smart. He saw this young man who excelled at everything. He noticed the integrity, the work ethic, and the incredible results. He probably thought to himself, "This kid is special. He's the real deal." So, little by little, Potiphar started giving Joseph more responsibility. First, it might have been overseeing a few other servants, then managing the household supplies. Before long, Joseph wasn't just a servant, he was the chief steward, running Potiphar's entire estate. The Bible puts it this way: Potiphar entrusted everything he owned to Joseph's care and worried about nothing except the food he ate. Imagine that level of trust. The Quran echoes this, highlighting that Joseph was granted wisdom and judgment. He went from being thrown in a pit to managing a palace. Talk about a glow-up. This was God preparing him, teaching him leadership and administration skills that would become crucial later on. But with great success often come great tests, and Joseph's biggest test yet was about to walk through the door. Potiphar's wife. The scriptures describe Joseph as being well-built and handsome, and she definitely noticed. She saw this young, capable man, far from his family, and she developed a dangerous desire for him. The Bible says she persistently propositioned him day after day. The Quran is even more direct, describing a moment where she locked the doors, cornered him, and said, "Come to me." Now, let's be real for a second. This was a high-stakes, high-pressure situation. Joseph could have easily given in. He was a slave, she was the master's wife. Refusing could have disastrous consequences. And who would ever know? It would have been their secret. But Joseph's character was solid. He refused her point blank. He told her, "My master has entrusted me with everything in his house. How could I do such a wicked thing and betray him? How could I sin against God?" That's a powerful statement. He wasn't just worried about getting caught by Potiphar. His loyalty was ultimately to God. That's integrity. That's self-control on a whole other level. He chose honor over momentary pleasure, showing a strength of character that is truly inspiring. Rejected and humiliated, Potiphar's wife wasn't about to take no for an answer. She decided if she couldn't have him, she would destroy him. As Joseph turned to run away from her, she grabbed hold of his cloak. In his struggle to get away, the garment ripped, leaving a piece of it in her hand. This became her proof. She immediately flipped the script, screaming and crying, and when the other servants rushed in, she held up the torn cloth and accused Joseph of attacking her. "This Hebrew slave you brought into our house came to me to mock me," she claimed. When Potiphar came home, she told him the same fabricated story. Now the Quran offers a fascinating detail here. A witness, some say a wise member of the household, others a child, suggested a simple way to find the truth. If his shirt is torn from the front, then she has told the truth, and he is of the liars. But if his shirt is torn from the back, then she has lied, and he is of the truthful. And when they checked, the cloak was torn from the back. The evidence proved Joseph's innocence. He was clean. But Potiphar was trapped. A public trial would expose his wife's scandalous behavior and bring shame upon his entire household. To save face and preserve his reputation, he made a cold, calculated decision. He had Joseph thrown into the royal prison. Just like that, an innocent man was condemned. So Joseph goes from the pit to the palace, and now to the prison. He did the right thing. He stayed loyal to both his earthly master and his God, and his reward was to be locked up in chains. That's a tough pill to swallow. It's a harsh reminder that sometimes, in this life, doing what's right doesn't immediately lead to applause or rewards. Sometimes it leads to pain, misunderstanding, and injustice. But even as he was dragged into that dark, grim prison, Joseph didn't despair. He knew this wasn't the end. He held on to his faith, believing that God was still with him, still in control. The prison wasn't his final destination. It was just the next necessary step in his incredible journey. Let's recap what we've seen so far. Episode 1. Joseph is betrayed and ends up in a pit. In this episode, he experiences a meteoric rise in Potiphar's house, only to be brought down by a false accusation that lands him in prison, from the palace to the dungeon. But through all these extreme highs and lows, one thing remained constant: Joseph's unwavering integrity and faith. He never compromised his principles, even when it cost him his freedom. The lesson here is profound. Your season of injustice, your personal prison, might feel like a dead end. You might feel punished for doing the right thing. But what if it's not a punishment? What if it's a preparation? What if, like Joseph, your character is being forged in the fire, preparing you for the palace that is yet to come? Your integrity might cost you something now, but it is an investment that will pay dividends in the long run. Joseph's story teaches us that God's plan is always at work, even in the darkest of places. Thanks for sticking with us through this part of the story. It's a heavy one, but so important. If you found this encouraging, make sure to hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss episode 3, where things in that prison get very interesting. See you in the next one.